going to happen, part of that, you may lose part of that cross section, right?
Absolutely.
So I just love that, Jeffrey.
Which ultimately strengthens the system and the process, right? Because if we're acknowledging that there's complexity to this, right, then we've got to do more than just talk to each other.
Exactly. Sometimes I'll start this teach out with like, the issues we're working on are complex. So like 76 right ways to go at them, right? And so don't fool ourselves, right? That as to the extent possible, we have to have everyone. It's like in social justice and equity work, it's kind of like we know that, and yet our practices and our participation, our engagement really only values a certain portion.
Yeah.
It's like we want difference, but we want the people who are different like us. I mean, it's kind of the ultimate irony, right? Like, and we just, and I say this with like full love and judgment, understanding that I do that. Like I do that. I think to myself, like, I really don't want that person. I really don't like that way they think about this. And do we have to work with these folks, right? It's not that I feel my friends as peace and love and Bobby Sherman every second. I'm like, oh, everyone. But what I'm finding in my work is if we can identify what are we willing to do together, to actually put the work at the center. Everyone will tell you how it should be, but what are they willing to do? And so what are we willing to do together? And identify that work, and then work from there and identify the next step. And where this came for me, I want to go through the stances, but where this came up for me, where I just started really noodling on this, was some work I was doing in Detroit around food system transformation. And we had folks who were in the academy, and we had folks who work for food banks, and we had food justice advocates, and we had land developers, and we had large-scale farmers, and we had small-scale farmers, like groups of folks who just fundamentally didn't agree. But the work was to shift the food system, and they could agree on that. The food system needed to shift, they could agree to do it. What they didn't agree on, a third of the people in the group didn't believe in capitalism. There were other people in the group who were land developers, and were pretty good with capitalism, right? Like, and weren't talking about shifting that system. Right? And so for us and we met for about 6 months, right? And just worked it. What are we seeing? What are we learning? And when it came time to do something, right? The age-old thing that always happens, at least in my world, came up. Well, I'm not going to talk about what we're going to do unless we're going to address race at the center of it. Because if we don't do that, we're just going to recreate a racist system. There were other people in the group that were like, if we talk about race one more time in Detroit, I am going to die. Right? And so I wasn't sure what to do. So I actually just turned it over to the group and said, what are we going to do? We've been in this conversation 6 months. It's time for us to get to work. Like, what are we going to do? We kind of worked it out. And what they decided was there were 6 strategies everyone actually could agree on, right? That whether you wanted to bust up the capitalistic system or actually saw Detroit as a capitalist dream at this moment, right? Like, there were 6 things we could agree on to do. And then through that, right, there was a thread of racial justice, right? So if that wasn't your thing, we had a group of people who really cared about it, who could talk with you about like racial justice. If you're going to develop a business incubator, we're willing to consult with you as part of the group and help you with that. And then another one of the threads was the triple P profit, right? So if you just want to do racial justice training, your agreement in this group is a thread around profit. So we're going to talk with you about how to do a profit with integrity, right? And so the group did not have to do the same activity, right? There were like some parallel activities. They could consult each other. They said what they were willing to do together, and they just saw the next step. And that was kind of like, let me be really clear, that was every meeting. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Do you want to say something?
Well, just maybe just before you go into the stances, is that where you're going next?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's just like the complexity of challenges that we're facing, more and more demand that we figure out a way to work across difference over time. Simple as that. Doesn't matter. Almost like we have to figure out how to do this. We have to figure out how to integrate social justice conversations and working across difference over time, or we're not going to be able to deal with any of the complexity of challenges we're faced with, whether it's like our education system, whether it's our healthcare system, whether it's our financial system, it's just like, we gotta figure this out, right? And so like, why participation? Why engagement? Because if we can't figure that piece out, if we can't figure out how to work across our difference, we're just not going to be able to tackle some of the most fundamental challenges we're faced with in our communities, in our schools, in our families, in our countries, in our world right now.